Hello Lumineers, welcome back to the Lighter Side Show. I will be your host today, Grace, and with me is Colleen Ziegler, and we have the Jesse behind the camera. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
There he is. Today is part 2 in the series of soul individualization and incarnations. Today I would like to cover bilocation, walk-ins. I'd like to go over hold on one more time, as well as soul individualization, and did we have others? I feel like we're going to get into so much more. This is more of the detail, like intrusions. I like to talk about the details of maybe some of your memories. Now, Lumineers, I like to ask, have you ever had a deja vu or an aha moment? You have? Well, I figured so. We tend to get those quite frequently, and if you can imagine, this is where your body, your instrument, is receiving information from beyond. So it's intuitive, it's a bit of a skill, some of you say, some a bit of an ability. I like to tell you it's naturally how you work, and that is that. You are made this way to receive information from the beyond. Now, because you can do this, you can also receive information from your other lives. Your other lives are your past lives, present lives, and future lives. And yes, they're all happening at the same time. Do you need to have a little moment to take that in? Yes, you have other present lives. So you can have made a choice to incarnate into the life you have now and also into other lives at a current time frame because they serve a purpose to you. No, that's not uncommon. Do I hear other questions? I hope you will send me your questions. I would love to answer them. Colleen, what are you thinking?
No, I'm just here waiting to hear your take on all of it.
And
I think Jesse might be thinking something.
There's a lot of thoughts in this room.
Something that sounds really kind of interesting right off the bat, and that I don't know if we really covered last in part 1, was intrusions. Do we speak really on intrusions at all?
We haven't, and I'd like to know the difference between a walk-in and an intrusion.
Yes, I would like to know what they both are.
So indeed, I will carry on. I'd like to remind my little Lumineers that the past lives, present lives, and future lives are all happening at once. So if you can imagine that all of your lives are on the same buffet, and that you have the opportunity to walk up and down the buffet, touch, pull, receive from every little life that you have decided to live. So you have that visual. So let's speak about intrusion. Intrusion is more of the ability of the aha moment, of the deja vu, where you are pulling on information that happened in another life of yours or in another life of somebody else's. Because as you can imagine, every experience, every thought, every word, everything that has happened is energy. Do you agree? If not, please start researching what energy is, what are thoughts made of, what are emotions made of, how do they transmit and how do they receive. Because I would like for you to get a good grasp on these things being energy. Now, everything is energy. So let's say Colleen in the 1800s had an experience with sipping on some black tea, some Tulsi tea, as she said she has wanted to try, which we send a big thank you once again to the lovely tea sent our way. Now she's had that, but yet Jamie, we'll say Jamie has been next to Colleen for so long that when Jamie tries the tea for the very first time, because she hasn't had it in any other lives in the buffet, but yet she has a strong memory of doing it. That is an intrusion. She is borrowing from the all that is knowledge, the Akashic records of all experience, and claiming it to be hers. Does this make sense? An intrusion is you reaching up and grasping or mimicking or connecting to somebody else's experience and seeing it as yours. In reality, it is yours because we are all part of the same source. So just like the 100th monkey, and we do know this story. Do we need to repeat it? I quite love it. Let's do it. That monkeys, century ago, what year are we in? Almost 2 centuries ago, would not wash their food. They would eat it dirty, they would rub it on their skin, they would rub it with their little cute paws and fingers and then eat it. And then one monkey had the idea that it should wash the fruit before eating it and get the sand off of it. When the 100th monkey caught on, it became mass consciousness. And all of a sudden, when that happened, a monkey in a different island, who is in no communication whatsoever to the other monkeys, got the idea to wash the fruit. Again and again, this is proven to be real. So we look at people, let's say when so many people have had the experience of drinking black tulsi tea, that all of a sudden it's a mass consciousness experience. And so we can pull on that experience, on that information from all that is, from Akashic records, and that is a bit of what an intrusion is. Because you didn't generate the experience from your being, from yourself, but yet you have experienced it because we have the ability to connect energetically to every other living energetic thing in this earth, on this earth, in this universe. So that is an intrusion. And this is where we get a lot of times in your hypnosis, in your spiritual work, where you come out with these clear, very distinct memories of things, but yet you never did them. So here we have this intrusion experience. I was speaking to hypnosis and some other experiences where you recall a memory that hasn't happened, because it could be a memory of someone who's close to you. It could be a memory from a past life of somebody else's or from the Akashic records. Yes, this memory holds validation for you. It holds a real story, but it hasn't created who you are in this lifetime. So there needs to be some very distinct way in separating what are you generating in this life, what is a real memory for you, and what is an intrusion, something that you're picking up from all that is. And you can do this by keeping a discipline, and a discipline is a lumaplen, which is very lovely to have. It is more like a rhythm. It's a commitment to being a better version of oneself, to where you tap in, meaning meditation or checking in mentally or emotionally, whatever your strong suit is, my little Lumineer, that is what you use. Do not force yourself to be a meditator when you're very kinetic, because if you try to shut down that body, you'll be very angry with you. So please follow these check-ins of what works with you. Once you begin to check in with yourself every day, you get this hint, this subtle sense of what is yours and what is being received. And it's very unique to you. So I can't sit here and give you some kind of process or exact way that it's going to feel for you, but you will find it through a lumaplen every day, checking in, what is mine, what am I creating, and what am I seeing and perceiving. It's what's mine, what's yours, and you'll get the sense of what it is. And then once you've got the sense, you trust it. So these intrusions are helpful because it is also the same way that you can connect to the Akashic records. It's the same way that you can connect to your other lives to retrieve information to help you in your current life. But I would like for you to do them consciously and not subconsciously. Do you have any other questions about the intrusions?
I think that covers it.
So do you? I didn't mean to leave you out.
No, not at all. I keep thinking about how intrusions can really mistakenly be placed for one's own experience.
Yes,
if you go into, I'm just going to use hypnotherapy for an example, and have memories that are not yours, it could become very easy to claim those memories as yours. And I was thinking about all the people that do that.
Absolutely, yes.
And that start owning that kind of information.
Yes, well, it's relying that the brain that you have had this whole life of yours, relying on it to be an accurate computer. And it's not. It's not something that holds information that just belongs to you. So what do you call it? A hard drive. It's not an external hard drive.
Sure.
It is a radio. It transmits and receives. So I would encourage everyone, whether you want to be spiritual or not, to understand how the brain works in transmitting and receiving. Because when you get good at it, you know if you're receiving what fully is generated by you or is generated by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I like to... this is not a wonderful topic, but it brings me to the people who feel as if they've been abused by loved ones as a child, or wronged by someone when they were little. Because when you're little, you don't have clear memories. Because for some of us, it's quite a long time ago. Or for some of us, when we protect ourselves emotionally, we blanket our memories and they become dark. And through hypnosis and other types of therapy, we often resurface those memories. And not all of those are going to be accurate, because some of those can very much be intrusions of another life where you have been abused by your father, but in this life you have not. Mm. So it's very important to distinguish. And if you are the therapist and the hypnotherapist, to really help the person distinguish, is it generated from them or is it received? And there's a very subtle but extremely distinct difference. Mm. It just requires a discipline and a work. So when we get into intrusions, it can lead us to bilocation. How is that so? So remember I said if you're at the buffet, and if you're at the buffet, an intrusion, let's say you're at your buffet, and your friend's buffet is behind you, and you walked over and you just grabbed a tablespoon off one of their, what do you call it, trays? Mm-hmm. Not really fond or don't know much about buffets, but that you take the tablespoon and you bring it back to your buffet. Now that's an intrusion. You're picking up and using your natural intuitive abilities. Bilocation is where you say, I'm going to take my tray now, and I'm taking my tray and I'm going to head over to somebody else's buffet and see what that's like. Or I'm going to take this serving and I'm going to walk over here, I'm going to take, let's say, spaghetti, and put it next to the pudding. And I'm going to let these two sit next to each other. So I'm leaving my position from where I am, and I'm coming over here to sit in this position next to the pudding. So what this does is, let's say you are living your life now, but yet you feel you need to be with your grandfather who is 5 states away, or 600 kilometers away. And you can, through perspective, through soul energy, relocate yourself. Now for somebody who is sensitive, empathic, clairvoyant, and they're with your grandfather, they can look and say, oh my goodness, there's Colleen in spirit. Is she dead? No, they call Colleen. Colleen comes to, hey, hello, I was just daydreaming. Oh, well, we saw you over here. Well, I wasn't there. I'm here. And she has a very clear memory of daydreaming and just being in her body, but she has bilocated because of some calling, for some reason, for some need to be with her grandfather. So you can have readings, like yesterday, Jamie had a lovely reading with a woman, and her wife showed up in spirit. But her wife is very much alive, healthy and fine. But the wife showed up in spirit and made a very clear statement that upon the turning of your political environment in the United States of America, that the client developed a lot of fear, a change in feeling safety, a change in feeling secure. So the wife showed up in spirit form to her wife's session to give advice of how to take care of her fears, her worries, and feed into her strengths. And even though the wife was living and at work and very well, she felt it was a need for her to divide herself, like hold on, and come to the wife's session. It doesn't mean that she has a lesser value or that she's sick or that she might be dying. Bilocation is easier for people who are in comas. They are easier for people who are very compassionate, empathic. They are very easy for those who have more of a spiritual, enlightened, and meditative rhythm in life. Because through that compassion and need to be there and show up, that's how biolocation occurs.
Now, for someone who's biolocating, for example, the wife to the other wife, she wasn't consciously doing this. This
No.
is her higher self coming in.
Correct.
And choosing to do this. So she's at work, totally unconscious that she is present in the reading.
Correct. The person will have no memory, no recall, but if it were explained to them, they'd say, well, I would absolutely like to show up for that. I really would have said that to you. Like it's a true, authentic expression of themselves, but it's created by higher consciousness to help round out the experience. Oh, I thought you were going to ask, so higher consciousness can make those calls.
So higher consciousness can make those calls. I was just assuming they could. So
Yes,
that's like
yes,
my
they
assumption
do.
was I was actually thinking about how my dog has biolocated several times into readings that I have had. And it's so cute when she comes through because she's sitting right next to me, but she comes through as herself and they explain her to be exactly who she is because she's all over the place. And that's what I was thinking about.
Animals are so
Yes.
good at this. Children.
Amazing.
Children
Oh,
are
yes.
so good at this. And I will share, a lot of this biolocation is happening now because of the political tension worldwide, not just in America. There's a lot of topsy-turvy. People aren't feeling right. And to create a strength, right? Because empathic and spiritual people tend to shut down when there's a lot of war or conflict or need to rally, because they have some kind of understanding that being spiritual and empathic and compassionate means peaceful and quiet and not loud, not present, not big. And right now in this day and age, the empathic and the spiritual people of the world today, we want you to have a louder voice. A louder doesn't mean aggressive. So we have to pull away some of the definitions, and a lot of biolocating is happening so that those who feel like they're wounded or retrieving because they're empathic and they can't understand what's happening and they don't feel safe, that their loved ones are now present with them, that are not just in spirit but also living and in spirit, to build the strength to speak up and come forward. It's very interesting.
Spiritual activism. Actually, you know, Dershna, that's what she calls herself, as a spiritual activist.
That is
And
great.
I love that title. I love it. She does a great job at it.
So when we look at biolocating, you grabbed your spaghetti and you went down by the pudding. Or you went to somebody else's buffet with your spaghetti and set it next to them. Right? So you can do it from your past, present, and future lives, or you can go to another buffet, into somebody else's series of past, future, present lives and be with them. But it does not mean that you're dead, and your higher self can do this for you. Right, so let's put your spaghetti back. Now let's say you have an experience with a walk-in. Do you know what a walk-in is?
I have a definition of a walk-in,
What
but
is
you
it?
can explain it better. So I see a walk-in as someone who has somewhat of a traumatic experience, and maybe even they die and come back, and another spirit enters their body, and they change personalities, they change the foods they like, they are no longer themselves.
They are no longer themselves. Many things have changed, but their memories stay. So imagine, now that we have a walk-in experience, something traumatic has happened. Maybe you have had an accident, you've had an illness, you've had something occur in your life where you have this extremely deep aha moment and you are changing all of who you are. So let's say that happened to the pudding life on your buffet. And so there you have it. See, someone agrees. And then what happens is, after that accident, either energy, spirit, a person, trying to make it in terms that you might connect to. So in somebody else's buffet, their vanilla pudding picks up and comes over and says, you've had this and we've agreed that after this happens, we get to share this life. So half the chocolate pudding is scooped out, half the vanilla pudding from someone else's buffet and life series is then put in and it's mixed.
So I've always seen, so correct me if I'm wrong here, I've always seen a walk-in situation, I thought it was 100% a walk-in, but you're saying it's 50-50. You stay
there's
yourself still.
There's a portion of you that remains behind.
Okay, a portion.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a 50-50
No,
type
it's not
of thing.
necessarily 50-50.
So it could
but
be
may
just
for
the
a great
memories.
visual. Yes, right.
Okay.
It's the memories and experiences, and because this stays, it fulfills your life that you have chosen to follow through with.
Okay.
Your higher self is now connected to that person. And do you know what's fascinating?
What?
The part that comes in. The part that comes in could be a life that's already on your buffet, an incarnation that you've already chosen. Or it could be an incarnation from somebody else's buffet, like we mentioned, the vanilla pudding has come over. So if it's from another buffet, somebody else's incarnations that is merging with yours as a walk-in, then that higher self from that buffet is also accessing this incarnation on your buffet. So has anybody, Lumineers, gone to reach into their higher selves and they find that it morphs every now and then? It is one, and then sometimes it's slightly different. But you go back to this one, but sometimes it's this as well. Because if it is, then you will have experienced what we call a walk-in, a merge. I like a merging better than a walk-in. A walk-in sounds like it's an easy ticket, and it's not an easy experience.
Well,
at
and
all.
I think a walk-in, too, has a negative idea around it, that walk-ins are always a negative thing. When you talk about emerging, it doesn't put that kind of energy on it.
Mm-mm. It's an assistant, it's a helping, and most commonly, this kind of merge happens from the same buffet. Because it's a developed incarnation that, let's say, if you had a near-death experience, you were able to access higher self in all of your lives, and then you connected to a part of you that was working over here that really resonated with you. And it's most likely you would bring a part of that incarnation of you into the current life. So you'd still have the same higher consciousness managing the buffet, but you would have different integrity, morals, understanding. You would have a different like or love for life or people.
I have a question about walk-ins. If you could explain a little further on when does that merging take place? Is it only after very traumatic experiences, or can it be simply like you went to bed one night and woke up and that merging took place?
Yes, it could be something as simple as that.
Okay.
It's not as common because people aren't willing to really surrender themselves to an agreement of that nature without a cause and effect.
Okay.
So going to sleep is not really a cause to change your entire life when you wake up. Yet, some of you have made agreements with other parts of yourself or other parts of another buffet of someone else that at this time in your life you will merge or walk in together and then continue this life from there on out. It's very interesting, isn't it?
It is very interesting.
So we have the bilocation, where you're taking one part, the spaghetti of your buffet, linking it to any other incarnation of your own or going to another buffet. Bilocation, where you are still living. You are not deceased, but you are spiritually present in somebody else's life. Yes, this happens and it's wonderful. Your higher self knows about it. Most of the time, consciously, you will not. That's why sometimes people will have dreams and say, you were in it, and it was real, and you told me X, Y, Z, and this is what happened, and you're listening to the dream saying, that's exactly what I would have liked to say to you. How intriguing that that's happened without me knowing. Well, not consciously knowing, but higher self knowing indeed. There's intrusions, where you run over to somebody else's buffet and you grab a tablespoon and you have those memories and you put it on your buffet, and you're like, that's part of me. Now I have that memory. Do you like just the tablespoon?
Like this, little pudding here, a little spaghetti here.
Yeah, a little spaghetti, and then the mixing, the merging. of either incarnations of your own or from somebody else, and that's more what you call a walk-in.
What are some, just for lack of better words, signs that people can recognize to know if something like that has happened, either within themselves or within somebody else, when a walk-in has taken place? Or I think, I can't help but think that this gets misdiagnosed as mental illness a lot. When it's actually a walk-in or a merging.
Moreover than not, this merging or walk-in, you will still feel like yourself.
Okay.
You are you.
Okay, so there's really no signs that that's happening.
Right, you won't wake up and say, something is wrong in here, I don't like that food anymore, this is weird. It's not like you're looking through somebody else's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You're just saying, I'm different, maybe I can't understand why.
Okay.
But most of these walk-ins and mergings, they're pre-agreed. And they're for
So they feel natural.
a deeper experience and something that you're looking forward to. It's very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't really point to an experience where a merging or a walk-in has been somewhat negative.
Okay. I guess I'm thinking in my head how I've heard about this in the past, and it's been more of this negative type of thing where someone's personality completely shifts.
So I would look at possession.
Okay. So a possession would be different than a walk-in.
Absolutely.
So a whole nother episode.
A possession is where you are your chocolate pudding,
Mm-hmm.
100%. And an incarnation, a spirit, most likely what you would call a ghost. It is a spirit without a physical body and not in the right dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Is looking for someone to play out what they want to do, and they see that light, they see that person, and they attach to it. So let's say the serving of chocolate pudding now has whipped cream all on top and all around the sides and everywhere, and the pudding is trapped in the center. Pudding is still whole and the same. It hasn't been mixed, it hasn't been portioned out,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been covered by something else. That's more of a possession.
Got it. I think I was confusing the two.
Oh, good, I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
Because with
So
the
that gives me
possession, we
some
can
clarity.
clear it off. We can remove it, and the chocolate pudding can then continue to be itself. I'm very entertained about the buffet angle.
I'm feeling like
I'm
I'm
not
at
very
like Golden
hungry.
Corral or something. Like I can't.
We need to get off of food because I am hungry.
Golden corral.
I don't know. I'm just thinking that's like a big buffet restaurant. I don't think I've ever actually walked into it, but I do know that they have a large buffet.
Well, I was told distinctly when I was coming in today that I had to have visuals.
Yes, that helps me. It helps me. So I often request visuals, and I know that I'm not the only person out there that likes a visual.
Overall, all of these things that we are talking about are agreed upon. And I think people have a little bit more difficulty in admitting that they've agreed to such things.
Even the possession. Is there a gray area there? Because I can't
There's
imagine.
a gray area.
Okay, I was going to say I can't imagine you agree to possession.
You do.
Okay.
But you're right, it's a bit of a grey area.
Mhm.
Because if you in your life have stronger boundaries and more confidence about who you are physically and energetically, where your beliefs are, possession cannot take place.
Got it.
So if you waver in it, let's say you have a home renovation and it stresses you out and things aren't well, and then it affects your marriage, and then it affects your parenting skills, and you become very thin,
Mm-hmm.
and you've surrendered your boundaries, and then there's an entity in the space that's like, that's just the girl I need to play out my smoking or my anger or my issues, and they attach, and they like expressing it, you know, because they're having such a hard time anyways. The woman says, well, I kind of like this, I'm blowing off steam, and they think that it feels good to get it out, but really they're developing a relationship with a spirit who is not healthy. So there's a bit of a give and a take. I think if we address everything that we've talked about today with a bit of only black, only white, we are really missing the most beautiful parts of the experience. Because even, like Maitland has mentioned in part 1, the beauty of having the amnesia, of having the suffering and the joy and the pain and the ease and the whole rainbow of emotions, that's the most precious part. And a possession can feed into that. An intrusion can feed into this. A bilocation can feed into this. A walk-in, all of this merging is part of the story. It's just now we're looking at our life experience in energetic terms, not just logic terms, memory, brain issues, psychology, or emotional terms and therapeutic terms or physical terms. We're looking at it through the energetic layer. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone feeling good?
It simplifies it.
Yes, it's going to help us live a very full life. And it gives answers to a lot of experiences we're having where other doctors of the body, the heart, the mind cannot explain. And so it would be my hopes that you do your research, you do your lumaplen, get to know your subtle energy and what you create versus what you're receiving, and start to identify where you are in your plan, yours, because you're in control, no one else is in control, it's you, that you, Lumineer, start to discover that and put it down, put it to heart, so that when life is happening to you, you have a broader, better picture of maybe why. Put your fingers to those keyboards and send us your questions, because Maitland and I will be powering up to do a part 3 and answering exactly what you are typing into us. Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely
You wrapped it up very
you.
nicely. Lovely having you here.
Well, thank you very much. My Lumineers, be well. I will see you soon. Thank you for joining me on Graceful Insights. Take care. Godspeed.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.